Hey everybody, welcome back guys to the second episode of my comparison series. This time we're going to be comparing two weapons. This time it's going to be one of them is going to be on the newest M416N that just came out earlier today. I'm actually doing this commentary the midnight after the M416N actually got released, and the other gun we're going to be comparing it to is the M416 Camo, because it seems like the general consensus is that the M416 is definitely not as good as the M416 CQB, like I had predicted in my video. And it's more like I've been talking with Arctic primarily, and he tells me that he's seen people say that, or he's heard people say that like people are think the M416N is like a cross between the M416 and the M416N, or the M416CB, sorry, or something like that. But to me personally, I feel like the M416N is more comparable to the M416 Camo, because statistically speaking they are very similar. It's just that there's only one major difference, and that's the recoil. But in any case, those two weapons I feel deserve a comparison, just so that it's worth comparing, because these two guns are very statistically similar, and it might help certain people figure out whether or not they should get this gun or not. So without further ado, let's hop into this comparison review, or comparison video I should suppose. So let's briefly mention the stats on both weapons. I've got both their stat charts in front of me here, and like I just mentioned just now, the only statistic that differs between the two is the recoil. The recoil on the M416 Camo is a 63, while the recoil on the M416N is a 65. Everything else is the same. Damage is 40, portability is 62, rate of fire is 74, and accuracy is 80. So now, first of all, let's go down the list of pros and cons that both weapons have, starting with the M416N. The M416N is available for NX, so that means that you don't need to have a rank requirement. One of the biggest cons about the M416 Camo is the fact that it has the highest rank requirement of any GP rare weapon available for direct purchase in the GP arsenal at Brigadier General. If you guys don't know what that is, it's the 1-star ranking, and obviously not many of you guys are 1-star generals, so unless you get lucky and get this from a Miss G case or something like that, or a Gray High-Sec case, can you even get them from Gray High-Sec cases? Maybe you can, but in any case, I mean, you're not gonna see the M416 Camo a lot, because of the fact that it's so rare that it has such a high rank requirement, and you're just not gonna see it very much, just because of how rare it is and how difficult it is to get it, and on top of that, it costs a lot. So obviously you won't be seeing that as much, whereas the M416N, because obviously it's for NX, you don't need to have a rank requirement. All you need to do is just drop some money, and there you go, you've got your M416N. Let's see other things that I can think about that the M416N offers over the M416 Camo. The M416N does come with a integrated ACOG scope. I've been getting comments that say, "Oh no, it's just not technically an ACOG scope because it doesn't have that." I don't give a fuck. It's still an ACOG, okay? Can we just leave it at that, please? Thank you. So it does come with its own integrated ACOG, so you don't have to worry about taking time out to buy your own ACOG every time you want to use the M416N, because it already comes with one. So yeah, there you go. And on top of that, compared to the M416 Camo, I think those are pretty much the only pros. So yeah, other than that, let's move on to the M416 Camo. The pros that the M416 Camo has is that it's strictly GP, so you don't need any NX. So on the flip side, while the M416N is advantageous that you don't need to have a super high rank requirement in order to access it, if you don't have NX, then you can't really access it anyway. So if you're high enough rank and you don't care about NX, then you have access to the M416 Camo, but you don't have any access to the M416N. So there you go. The obvious statistical pro that the M416 Camo offers over the M416N is the fact that it has the same recoil as all the other M416 variants at 63, whereas the M416N has a 65 recoil. So obviously, the M416 Camo will have a lower recoil than will the M416N. On top of that, the M416 Camo behaves just exactly like the original M416, while the M416N has that weird recoil thing going on for it. Because it has a higher recoil, it's got a higher tendency to over tap fire. You can't spray as well as you can while aiming down sights. And you just can't spray in general better with the M416N than you can with the M416 Camo. The Camo still beats it in pretty much the recoil department, the entire recoil department. Your tap fire ability is better, your spread's better, your kickback is better. Everything about the M416 Camo's recoil is better than it is on the M416N. So yeah, statistically speaking, the Camo's gonna have to do it. And on top of that, because the M416N comes with an integrated ACOG scope, you can't, if you want to use the iTech, you can't use the iTech on the M416N, whereas on the M416 Camo, you can have a choice of whether you want to use the iTech or you want to use the ACOG. It's up to you. However, for the M416N, because obviously it comes with an integrated ACOG scope, you can't choose. So you're stuck with the ACOG, just like how on the CQB, you're stuck with the iTech, and that I feel that kind of limits its range a little bit, but nonetheless, we're not talking about the CQB here, we're talking about the N. And in the case that you wanted to use an iTech for whatever reason on the M416N, you can't do that because it obviously comes with the forced ACOG scope. You can't take it off. So let's see here. In reality, it's actually pretty hard to compare it to, because the thing is that I'll be straight up honest with you guys. I really do feel that the M416 Camo is a little bit better in terms of overall performance than is the M416N. It's got better recoil, because everything else about the M416 Camo and the M416N are identical to each other except for the recoil. That recoil reduction, or the recoil increase in the M416N, is what basically tips it out of the running with the M416 Camo. The M416's, or like the M416, the recoil on the M416 was already really good enough anyway. It wasn't like M4A1 status, but it was still really good. And the M416 Camo was just basically like a reskin of the M416, except it's just got a nice plus 2-point damage increase over the original M416, and it's basically like a copy paste from the original M416. Whereas the M416N, it's got hefty recoil. You just can't hit targets as well as you can if you had an M416 Camo. So performance-wise, I would have to give the running to the M416 Camo. It's just got the reliability of the M416, and you can't go wrong with that. You just can't. The M416N, the recoil, it's not good. Definitely, I shouldn't say it's not good. It's not terrible, but compared to the M416s, and especially the Camos, it's just like, well, there's no comparison. The M416 Camo is gonna be better all the time. Though, I digress, or I should say I digress, but I feel like I'm overstating that a little bit. The M416 Camo is indeed better, but by how much are we saying? Because the M416N still has the same damage as the M416 Camo. You can still do as well with the M416N than you would with the M416 Camo, So there's no reason why you can't do as well with the M416N, but I feel that for people who are picking up these guns for the first time, I just feel that they would be more naturally inclined to use the Camo other than the N. So there you go. However, we need to take into consideration that the M416 Camo is just so hard to obtain. Think about it, how many 1-star generals out there? There are a couple. I don't even know how many out there now. Like maybe like 800, 700. I don't know. But that's still a really small percentage of the active Combat Arms community. You don't even today, where there are lots of generals running around out there, you just don't run into generals every room. Most people are just like Master Sergeant, Staff Sergeant. No, I shouldn't say Staff. It's like Sergeant First Class, Staff Sergeant. I just said Staff Sergeant again. Master Sergeant, Command Sergeant Major, Officer, something along the lines of that. You still don't see a lot of generals out there, unless of course you yourself are a general. So thus you're not gonna see very many people running around the M416 Camo. On top of that, it costs a shit ton of GP. What doesn't it cost? Like, let's check the comments wiki. It costs 1,650 GP a day. That's as much as the most expensive GP rare machine gun. I think it's an RPKS mod. So it's really expensive. You don't want, most people don't feel like dropping nearly over 1.5k just to use a single assault rifle for a day, you know? And for 7 days, my god, 8k? Like, who would want to do that? Like, willingly, unless you had like a what? Bankload of GP that you don't even know what to do with? Like me, for example. Like I'm kind of wasting. I'm kind of bleeding GP because of all of the stupid gameplay requests I've been getting. But I mean that's fine because otherwise I wouldn't have an idea what to do with that GP. You know. I mean I've still got a healthy like 730k, so I'm fine. But for those people, but most people don't have that much GP. You know, because they're not an X-Horse like me, or they just don't play enough to garner all that GP, you know, to use on whatever the hell they want. So the M416 Camo, not only is it extremely hard to obtain, but even if you do get it from a missed G case, or even if you are Brigadier General or up, I mean, it still costs you money, you know? It still costs you a lot of money. If you got through a missed G case, you just dropped 4k on a gun that probably you only got for 1 day. If you got it for 7 days, that's a really good deal because you just basically got it for half off. But most likely, you're only gonna get things for a day from those missed Gs. I can speak from experience. And I mean, if you bought it straight from the the GP shop, you just dropped what 1600 GP for a day, and because the 1 day sales aren't there, you just dropped over 8k on that thing. So you get my point here. The M416 Camo, it's just such a hard gun to get your hands on. That's why I'm comparing it with the M416 N. If it weren't for the fact that the M416 Camo is just such a rare gun to come across, then I doubt I would be making this review. Well, this isn't a review. I doubt I would be making this video right now. Because I would just tell people, just go get the M416 Camo. That's all you need. There's no reason to get the M416 N. I mean, it's a good gun, but compared to the Camo, there's not really much we can do. The M416 Camo will perform better most of the time. But I know I'm heavily emphasizing on things that don't, like aspects of these guns that don't necessarily need correspond to how they actually perform in game, but this is still an important consideration because this is still part of combat arms. Your money, you need to know how to manage your money well, and if it means that you're gonna have to bankrupt yourself just getting the M416 Camo that you'll probably only get for a day or something like that, that's not worth it. It's much better for you just to drop like real life money to get the M416N for perm and just basically live with that. Essentially, the M416N is just like the M416 Camo, except with a little bit heavier recoil. A lot heavier recoil if you talk about the aim down sight in scope kickback, but that's besides the point. These two guns are very similar statistically speaking, and if you don't have the means through which with which to get the M416 Camo, I doubt you would, you know. I mean, yeah, it's just M416N. I suppose that's why Nexon kind of put in the M416N, because maybe they thought, you know, look, the M416 Camo is a good gun, but not many people are getting it. Most people already know that the M416 Camo is a really good gun, but how can we make it so that people will, you know, I don't know where I'm trying to go with there, but yeah, I just feel like Nexon made the stats of the M416N very similar to the M416 Camo for a reason. And maybe that was why, because they intended to emulate it after the Camo variant, but make it intentionally worse so that people will have, you know, you'll have a choice. You'll need to decide whether or not you want to go after the M416 Camo or the M416N. This stopped being a comparison video already, but I can tell. But in any case, but yeah, I feel that as sad as it is, I feel that the most important thing to consider when we're comparing these two guns is the accessibility. For one, the M416N is NX. If you don't have NX, you can't get it. Simple as that. You can still have it. At least you can have a chance of getting an M416 Camo. But on the flip side, if you do have NX, I mean, is it worth going for that M416 Camo, especially if your rank is not high enough to just directly buy it from the GP shop? Are you going to risk wasting like potentially a lot of GP on like say a 1-day M416 Camo and just clutter your inventory with guns you don't even want? Like, is it worth it? You have to think about that. So performance-wise, I would say that, you know, the M416 Camo is better. There's no doubt about it. Even if it's just a little bit, it's still better. Because of the fact that it has 2 points less recoil, which in turn means less recoil kickback and less recoil spread. So there you go. But I mean, is that margin of better performance really worth all that money just to get the M416 Camo? You have to think about that. You have to consider that. You have to take that into consideration. With that in mind, I would definitely say, I'm not trying to promote Nexon or convince you guys to buy NX or anything like that. That's not my intention. I'm just saying this from a strictly objective point of view. The M416N, in the long run, it would be a better choice. It's better for you to just say, you know what? If you're not of rank, it's better for you to just say, you know, I like the M416 Camo, but because the M416N is a lot more accessible to me, and it's pretty much as good as it can get, then, you know, I should get the M416N. And then there's that argument that, you know, oh, you know, the M416 CQB is still better. Oh, you know, we're not talking about that. We're comparing the M416 CQB with the M416N because those two are weapons that I chose to compare. So let's not bring any other weapon into this. But yeah, I hope I made my point clear. So in case you guys didn't get anything out of this, the M416N is better if you know you can't access the M416 Camo anytime soon. Like, if you don't have a guaranteed way to get yourself an M416 Camo, don't get it. Get the M416N instead. However, if you are Brigadier General, and you get lucky and you buy a MSG case and it happens to be like a 98 M416 Camo or something like that, then don't get the M416N because the M416 Camo is going to do just as well and even better. So I hope I've made my point clear. I know it's not like a clear-cut thing because obviously the M416 Camo is a GP weapon and the M416N is an NX weapon. So already we're already kind of trudging around in you can't really compare these territory, like that gray area. But I mean, I feel like just statistically speaking alone, the M416 Camo and the M416N deserved a comparison review by its own. So anyways, hope you guys have enjoyed the comparison video, and I'm gonna go ahead and compare some other. I'm gonna make some other videos doing basically the same thing with other weapons that you guys have requested. So anyways, guys, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys later. You could shit that today.